Scorpio, welcome to your July 2019 tarot reading. This is a general reading. And I was, just starting the reading and I heard this truck and I was afraid that perhaps it was going to be here for a while, and I think it was just passing by. So anyway, I'm just going to get right into it. The heart of the matter is the Nine of Wands. This is a card of somebody who's kind of like standing, keeping a vigil at the gates. And that could be symbolic for feeling like you might have to be dealing with something all over again. It could be like a relationship that you have let go of, or that maybe the other person let go of, and it's like they come back. I want to tell you something that, from my reading of all these, narcissist materials that I've kind of gotten into, is that one of the things that they tend to do is come back right at the moment when you've finally gotten it together, when you finally gotten them out of your system, or when you're starting to get your life put together. Maybe you feel like they kind of were part of your downfall. And so when people have an on again, off again relationship, there's often, to me, something that one person allows from the other. They believe their lies, yeah, I'm going to quit drinking, or I'm going to stop cheating. They keep believing it, they fall for it, then the person does it again to them. And so an on-again, off-again relationship can mean that it's a dysfunctional relationship. It's hard to admit that when you feel like a certain connection with somebody, but that's just the way it is. This could be, I'm looking at the past position here, this could be a Sagittarian. A Temperance card relates to Sagittarius. For yourself, if you have gotten sober, this could be that you are being very careful that you don't want to go back to how you used to be. And maybe there's some reason, if you've had stress in your life and you feel like you might be more susceptible, or if you are dealing with somebody who drinks or whatever it is, and you feel temptation, there's that sense of, with the Nine of Wands, of, keeping very rigid boundaries between you and the rest of the world. This could even be that you are erecting these boundaries because of a Sagittarian, because of somebody who you feel like was very, a bad influence, or, it just didn't work out. And the higher message, the spiritual message, is the Knight of Pentacles, which is, it could be a couple of different things. It could be that the best answer to you right now is just good old-fashioned hard work, and just doing it, just, kind of like taking refuge in your work, and doing something productive rather than worrying about what if, but doing something that's tangible, that you can feel like you're on the right track. This is also connected to the sign of Taurus, so who knows, maybe if this is a relationship issue, maybe there's a Taurus person who really digs you and you're kind of chasing after the fire signs, and because you think that they're flashier, and meanwhile you have this dependable person who would probably be a lot more able to commit to you. A Scorpio person wants somebody who is going to commit, but Scorpios are like anybody else, and sometimes you may feel a sense of attraction for somebody who seems more elusive, or what have you. Or maybe you have Venus in Sagittarius yourself, and you have that part of you that maybe doesn't really want to commit yourself. this can be also, but there was something else I was going to say along those lines. Something about, well, I guess in general, like if this is a work situation, for instance, it may be that, well, I was going to say that with the Temperance card, maybe you have the wrong attitude and you're just kind of like looking at your job as a means to an end. The Temperance card also shows the angel with 1 foot in the water and 1 foot on land. Water represents the spiritual as well as the emotional. Of course, you're a water sign yourself, Scorpio. So that idea of doing something strictly for the money, the land, and the material, the earth, it doesn't work for a Scorpio because you are emotionally connected, which means spiritually connected to whatever you're involved with, whether it's a person, a place, or a thing. So, and Scorpios especially, I feel like you are very black and white about what you like, what you don't like, and if you are doing something just for the money, it's not going to work. I think you have to have a sense of emotional connection to it in order to feel like you're doing what you came here to do. And so what crosses you is represented by the Seven of Pentacles. So this is a challenge position. It can be that I was even getting this feeling for some people of having your own business. And maybe you have given up too quickly for some reason, which seems really hard to believe because Scorpio is a fixed sign and you tend to kind of like have patience when it comes to these things. But, you know, sometimes people get discouraged because they've never done something before and they have, you know, if you have like grandiose ideas of what's going to happen, and that's normal because we think sometimes we think things are just going to come instantaneously and they don't. And we're just kind of like, hey, you know, why didn't that happen the way I thought it was going to happen? Well, it's not as easy as you think sometimes. And you may be creating resistance within yourself because of your attitude, so who knows? But the bottom line is this can be a situation where either, there's like two possibilities, either you have been too patient and you've been too willing to just wait when you really need to like kind of move on, or you didn't give it enough time. Now, if this is a relationship issue, it can be that you have there could be something within yourself, and this would depend on, I wouldn't say this is a Scorpio trait necessarily, but other factors within your makeup that kind of tend to move on too quickly and don't really get to know somebody deeply. Some people who are Scorpios have moon signs, for instance, that are in air or in fire, and that will make them more impulsive, more like of two minds, you know, where that Scorpio is only, that influence is only present some of the time. And actually the moon sign can be quite influential because it shapes our emotional attitudes. So if you have a moon, for instance, in Aquarius, you might shut down very, very suddenly emotionally. And it almost seems like, you're totally opposing the nature of your sun sign, which it's actually a square to your sun. And this is because it's like blowing hot and cold, and for other people, this can be very, very even upsetting, but definitely crazy making because they can't figure you out, and you may not even be able to figure yourself out. Usually if it's somebody like that, they may have even dealt with, I would say that kind of a Scorpio may have dealt with trauma growing up when they were younger, and they just get very afraid when they get close to somebody. It might even be indicative of feeling strong feelings towards that person, and that makes you shut down. But in any case, and that's why I say with the Nine of Wands, it could be like this wall that is up. And I was thinking in terms of feeling, anticipating, somebody trying to get into your good graces again. But now that I think about it, it could be like this instinctual thing, which the moon sign is kind of like your instincts, and that as a self-protective device, but it's actually working against you, perhaps. So who knows, So anyway, the advice is the Three of Swords, and usually this card relates to heartbreak and things. And of course, as advice, it could be to acknowledge that you have been hurt. Maybe you've kind of been in denial and kind of too detached about it to really see what has happened. But I think as advice that this is more along the lines of understanding that you need to like cut something off very cleanly. That's why I say with the Nine of Wands, that could be that you have this on again, off again situation. And this could definitely be with this could be like a career type of a, or a job type of a thing where you're working, usually, I mean, believe it or not, there are some people that quit and then they go back to a certain place, but they can't ever seem to stay there very long. Or if you work, even if you have your own business or something and you're working for a specific person that ends up screwing you over or something like that, it's like you need to just make that clean break. And sometimes I think what happens is that fear takes over and the person thinks, but if I totally cut ties with this person or this situation, this employment situation, that I'll be totally left out in the cold. And, obviously there are going to be different circumstances, but in general, I would say that when you honor yourself, that I believe that it opens other doors. Now, if I were totally without any other prospects, then I probably would tolerate a bad situation a little bit longer, because it's not, I mean, even if I have like the best sparkly thoughts and all of that, I'm still not going to risk quitting a job, even if I'm unhappy there, because I just am, they have that saying, jump in the universal provided net. Well, I got to see like some evidence of a little bit of a net before I'm going to jump. You know what I mean? And it's going to be dependent on the situation. Let's put it that way. Because sometimes you just are going to just leave no matter what, because you just can't take it anymore, and you know that there's a possibility of having a burnout and just being, totally incapacitated in some way. Sometimes people have burnouts and they end up like not being able to work because they tolerated a bad situation for too long. So it's not just an even Steven thing across the board, but in some cases, cutting that tie is the best thing for moving on with your life, because there's always like that what do they call that? Tying up the loose ends, where you're just something that's undone, and that's kind of aggravating. So you want to make sure that you're not unnecessarily prolonging the suffering, let's put it that way. And the outcome, the Nine of Cups. Isn't that a great change of pace from the Nine of Wands, the Nine of Cups? Wish fulfillment. And I got a comment today under another sign's video, and they said, oh, you've been saying, wish fulfillment, blah, 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 and, I haven't seen it. And what I say is, what have you been doing to make it happen? I never want to do these videos as kind of like a La La Land fantasy. I really believe that, the scenario that I've painted here is something that happens quite frequently, where somebody is in a bad situation, but they allow their energy to be drained by these unproductive associations. And really, it takes the person to have the guts to break off that and to move on with their life. And yet, they may feel a sense of fear. But there's to me, on the other side of that is this kind of a thing. And then you get into alignment. But you have to do the work. And it's not like it's not something that happens instantaneously. Sometimes, who knows, maybe it can manifest very quickly if you're willing to let go of a bad situation. Maybe you can align yourself with something good, like lickety-split. Maybe that is possible. But I think in a lot of cases, it is like a process. But you have to at least get the ball rolling. And staying in a negative situation is just prolonging that kind of like feeling of not being where you should be. So to me, the Nine of Cups is kind of like on the other side. This is what is waiting for you. And I think too, even talking about addiction, I think with the Three of Swords, it can be somebody who's kind of dabbling, you know what I mean? Maybe your drug of choice is alcohol, but you smoke weed, and you think you can kind of like handle it, and you find that it leads to you drinking. And it might not be your number one thing, but you're doing it. So it's like you have to totally make up your mind that you're going to move on with your life, and you're going to live a sober life. I know that is definitely something that plagues people, or you're in a relationship with somebody and you know that it's a destructive thing, but there's something about that person. Maybe you have a strong physical chemistry with them, or maybe you just are very lonely and you feel like, if I cut it off, I don't get to have this human contact, or I don't get to feel, or I'm going to feel bad about myself because I'm going to feel like I can't have a relationship. And I know everybody around me has relationships. What's wrong with me? I don't have a relationship. And these kinds of things keep people stuck, and this is what I'm trying to get at, but it's not anything necessarily magical. It's really kind of practical, but at the same time, I do believe that energetically, it is like a practical alchemy where you're taking charge of the situation, but the universe is like helping you. It's like, that saying, God helps those who help themselves, or like pray and get your feet moving, those kinds of things. So I hope that I clarified that, because I did get that card before and I got like kind of, someone, oh yeah, right, sure, sure, wish fulfillment, blah, blah, blah. No, wish fulfillment, but you did the work. You took the action that you needed to take. And, okay. I hope that you enjoyed this, Scorpio. If you'd like a private reading, my website is rainamoonastrology.com, and the link is below. Take care. Bye.